View's everything, what is the view? It's like a layer cake in a way. You ever seen the movie Layer Cake? First, you don't know shit, First, you take a lot of shit, The view is rest your mind in the nature of your mind. Learn how to practice meditation. You start a session, you get aligned, or you think about alignment, you have posture, and then you're like, how do you let go on the breath? The whole thing is to get aligned, learn how to let go on the breath, learn how to use the breath as a tremendous object of meditation, which will take you a long ways because you got to let go on the breath, which is what you don't know how to do. You don't know how to be aligned. You don't know how to let go. You don't know how to rest your mind. And the nature of your mind is what you don't know how to do. So meditation is just starting at the beginning with the brass tacks of how to relate with the breath, how to get things going toward the higher realms, aligned and toward relaxation. So you're going toward that, letting go. But then there's always, is it stabilized? Is it healthy? Is it the right kind of letting go? That's upright and not leaning on anybody and not clinging to nothing. And how to relate with thoughts. How do you handle your thoughts? How do you handle this mind, which is like a wild fucking horse? It's just predestined to head you to the bad place unless you learn how to ride the horse of mind. If you learn how to ride the horse of mind, then it's destined to take you to Buddhahood. So how do you arrange your destiny? It's very simple. You got two kinds of mind. You got Rigpa, and you got Sims. Sims is when your mind is running away with you, even to the point of stringing two thoughts together. That's Sims. So you have one thought and then you have a thought. That's not what we're doing in meditation. We're not practicing Sims. And then you have this other mind, which is Rigpa. Or let's just say the moving mind and the unmoving mind. The unmoving mind may or may not be Rigpa. Well, it probably is if it's not moving really, but we still haven't figured out the secret to this whole thing. If we experience a fair amount of Rigpa, but when we're stringing thoughts together, we're pretty good at that too. I'm pretty good at quiet too, but I can arrange some thoughts to go on too. And what you don't understand is how Rigpa can be the unmoving mind, but how Rigpa can be unaffected by the mind moving. So that's what you don't know. That's what you don't know. You are not quick enough. You gotta be quick. You gotta be quick enough that you always, not always, but on a regular basis, you rest your mind in your unmoving mind, and on a regular basis, you have discovered this little trick of to be a skillful trainer of the horse of mind. You need to know that there's two skills you want to practice. One is do not beat your horse of mind because it's wild. And practice a schedule and practice regularly. When we get to this level, it means practice all the time, 24 hours a day. And between sessions may be more important than sessions. Your commitment when you stand up off that cushion may be much more important than what you did in the sessions. So, 3 words that strike the vital point is one is the view. You're learning these skills and you're applying these skills and first you don't know anything. You don't know what we're talking about these skills, and until you do it a lot, it takes a lot of going to get to the stage I'm talking about how you learn how to really handle things. Because you're not around much, You spend most of your time in black diffusion, especially once you get off that cushion. You show promise when you're on the cushion of being able to do something different, emulate the Buddhas but so you step off that cushion, you know how to show anything. Because you haven't understood the view, you haven't quite understood what's going on here yet. But you just keep working on your view, keep working on your view, keep working on your view. Then we get to the second word that strikes the important point, which is when it occurs to you that you could make a commitment. You can make a commitment to 24/7 to what goes on when you get off the cushion. You can take that commitment you have on the cushion to off the cushion. And that's when, in a certain way, you could say that's when the real work begins. I don't know. That's when a very important phase of this comes into practice, when you say, I got to take myself in hand and handle my business off the cushion. I've learned these skills. I've incorporated these skills. I can do pretty good on the cushion. I can do pretty good on the cushion and not stringing one thought into 2. But I got to do that off the cushion. So, you can't be too rough on your horse when you have a thought on or off the cushion. You can't play whack-a-mole with thoughts. We cannot play whack-a-mole with thoughts. We have to allow thoughts to arise and be acknowledged, but not play whack-a-mole and not play the game of let's have a tea party with the guy who brought the message. Let's not entertain the messenger. So don't be pounding on thoughts, but don't entertain the messenger. Don't be aggressively suppressing thoughts. Don't use the antidotes as a way of beating yourself up, beating up some tender being in there that is not aggressive by nature. Your horse is a tremendous athlete, but if you beat him up, he'll be broken spirited. It won't be it's not the same thing as allowing your horse to be. your mind is powerful and free, but you can't chain it up to try to become a Buddha. So this is kind of a magical thing. It's a magical thing on the cushion. It's very magical off the cushion, but harder to do somehow. I don't know. We're more easily captured by our samsaric having been captured for millions of lifetimes, millions of hours spent in black diffusion. And then the third stage is the third word that strikes the vital point is, I wish I could remember the name of the teacher. There was this great being, but they didn't trust anybody else to run the monastery. Only he was without fault, without ego. So they just made him work his ass off running the monastery. But he was pretty well developed, and finally he looks over at his assistant and he goes, no matter what I do, I'm never separate from the nature of my mind. He had reached a stage which, let's say, you're pretty good at the second level. You made a commitment, you put it into practice, and in most situations, you rest your mind in the nature of your mind, and Rigpa is just Rigpa. But some situations, you get in a fight with your wife, you get in a fight with your boss, you get in a fight with your coworkers, or, the roofers show up to put a new roof in your house and they're pounding nails on your head for 9 or 10 hours. Certain situations you're thrown off of your usual experience of hanging out with the Buddhas, and it all being about wisdom and spontaneity and healing and helping others and peace and emptiness, appearance and emptiness suffused with knowing into somewhere where you're distracted and confused and your emotions get the better of you. So then you double down, and you say, okay, well, it's obvious what the problem is when I'm asleep, I'm not conscious. I'm not resting my mind in the nature of my mind asleep. I got to work on that. Or, I got to work on these situations where I'm taken out of my, I'm not resting in the nature, I'm confused. And so you work on polishing up that, until you 24/7, there's never a moment when you're not resting your mind in the nature of your mind, even when you're in deep sleep, you're like, I think that's pretty hard to do. Or when you're dreaming, I think it's pretty hard to do all the time. Maybe you could do it a little while. If you have to work too much, it might be hard to do. Or if you have to struggle with some things and difficulties in life, it might be hard to do. But that's what you got to work on. You go with it with the same commitment you had before, but you know, your commitment has to kind of take a leap, maybe, or whatever. Maybe you just got to realize it's not a struggle. When I really progress, it's because I think, oh, this is easy. I thought this was hard, but this is really easy. But maybe you have to learn something for it to be easy. That's kind of what it is. Gazing.